The law offices of Harrison Associates oozed old money, mahogany-paneled walls, antique furnishings, and brooding oil portraits of dead partners whispered wealth and legacy. I sat outside the conference room in a stiff leather chair, watching as my siblings arrived one by one, each deliberately pretending I didn't exist. Michael entered first, clad in a custom Italian suit and the smugness he'd worn like armor since childhood. Next came Elizabeth, swathed in designer labels, her diamond rings winking under the lights as she furiously tapped at her phone. Then Thomas shuffled in, still rumpled from whatever couch he'd passed out on, doing a poor job of pretending he hadn't just rolled out of bed. "Miss Carter," the receptionist said softly, almost regretfully. "Mr. Harrison said the reading is for heirs only." I didn't have to look to know my siblings were smirking. This was the moment they'd been waiting for, maybe even orchestrated. "That's interesting," I said, rising with calm precision and adjusting the strap of my briefcase. "Because I have a 10 o'clock appointment with Mr. Harrison." Michael's voice dripped condescension. "Sarah, don't embarrass yourself. We all know Dad cut you off a long time ago." "Ah yes, the infamous disowning. All because I had the audacity to say no to the family real estate empire and build something of my own. Dad had declared me dead to him. What none of them realized was what I'd been building in the years since." "Actually," I said, glancing at my watch, "I'm right on time." At that moment, the conference room door opened, and James Harrison stepped out. His eyes flicked to me in brief surprise, then settled into polite neutrality. "Miss Carter, thank you for coming. Please, everyone, come in." Michael's jaw tightened. "Jim, she's not part of this." Dad was very clear. "About the will." "Yes," Harrison interrupted smoothly, "but Miss Carter has relevant information we need to review first." I followed them in and took the seat directly across from my siblings. The leather creaked as I set my briefcase on the polished table. "Before we proceed with the reading," Harrison said, "Miss Carter has asked to present some documentation." "This is a joke," Elizabeth snapped, finally tearing her eyes from her phone. "She was disinherited. She's just here to make a scene." I smiled and began pulling out folders. "Actually, Liz, I'm here to save us all some time. Before we talk about what Dad left behind, we should probably establish what he actually owned at the time of his death." Thomas blinked, confusion etched across his sleep-deprived face. "What are you talking about?" "Dad owned everything, the apartments, the office buildings, the malls." "Did he?" I asked, sliding documents across the table, "because these deeds suggest otherwise." Michael grabbed the closest folder, his face draining of color as he scanned the contents. This isn't possible." "Oh, it's very possible," I said, continuing to lay out the paperwork. "While you were busy running his company into the ground, I was quietly buying up his properties, through shell corporations and third-party groups. Didn't you ever wonder who those mysterious new competitors were?" Elizabeth's hands trembled as she rifled through the documents, her pristine nails clicking against the pages. "The Riverside Apartments, the Maxwell Office Park, the Highland Shopping Complex." Elizabeth's voice was thin as she skimmed the documents. "These are all owned by Carter Investment Group?" I smiled faintly. "That's one of mine. Technically, I operate under several names." Michael's mouth opened, then closed, as if trying to recalibrate reality. "But those are billion-dollar properties." "Correct," I said smoothly, "and I've owned them for years." While Dad was busy being furious that I wouldn't join the family business, I was quietly building one of my own, larger, more profitable, and, apparently, invisible to all of you. Harrison cleared his throat, clearly enjoying the moment more than his neutral tone suggested. "This is why I allowed Miss Carter to speak before the reading. As of today, she owns approximately 85% of the real estate portfolio previously attributed to your father's estate." The room fell into stunned silence. Even Thomas looked sobered now, no longer hungover, just pale. "How?" he whispered. I leaned back, folding my hands. "Remember 3 years ago, when Dad hit a cash flow wall and started liquidating assets to keep the company afloat?" They didn't answer, but their faces did. "Well," I continued, "did any of you stop to ask who was buying those assets?" I watched the realization creep in. "It started with the Riverside Apartments," I said. "Dad always prided himself on selling locally, never to big corporations. He never realized that Highland Investment Partners was mine. Then came Maxwell Office Park, through Summit Enterprises, also mine. And when I picked up the Highland Shopping Complex, he was practically giving it away." Michael looked like he might explode. But, the family business is now just a management company, I finished, handling properties that belong to me. So yes, congratulations, you've all been working for me for the past 3 years. Elizabeth's expression had shifted from shock to calculation. Classic Liz, always looking for a loophole. Dad's will could challenge those transactions, if we can prove you manipulated. No, Harrison cut in sharply, you can't. I personally reviewed every transaction. Each sale was clean, legal, and at fair market value. Miss Carter simply outmaneuvered you. Thomas blinked slowly. Did Dad know? A flicker of memory tightened my chest, but I kept my voice even. Yes, I told him 2 weeks before he died. They leaned in, despite themselves. He laughed, I said, actually laughed, said it figured, the daughter who refused to join his company would be the one to outplay him at his own game. Michael was practically vibrating with rage. This is some kind of setup, a scam. Would you like to see the bank transfers? I asked, reaching for another set of documents, property appraisals, rental income reports. It's all here. While you were playing moguls, I was building an empire. Elizabeth's voice was laced with disbelief. But your firm is tiny, just a little office downtown. That little office is the headquarters of a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, I said. I don't need to flaunt it, I just need it to work. Something Dad had finally understood, right before the end. Harrison cleared his throat once more. Perhaps now would be an appropriate time to read the will. I nodded and leaned back, ready to enjoy the finale. To my children, Michael, Elizabeth, and Thomas, Harrison began, I leave my remaining business interests and properties, which, as Miss Carter has demonstrated, consist primarily of the management company and a few minor assets. Stunned silence, no one moved. And to my daughter, Sarah, they flinched at the sound of my name. I leave my private art collection and all personal properties, along with an apology. You proved me wrong, and I've never been happier to be wrong in my life. Elizabeth's phone slipped from her fingers, clattering to the table. The art collection, she gasped, but that's worth more than the rest of the business. I smiled. Yes, I know, ironic, isn't it? This can't be legal, Michael growled, standing. I'm calling our lawyers. Please do, I said calmly, collecting my documents, though you may want to review the management contracts first. All of them expire next month. The silence turned cold. Without those contracts, their company was little more than office furniture and a few paperweights. You wouldn't, Thomas said quietly. We're family. I laughed, without warmth. Was it family when you supported Dad cutting me out? When you mocked my little firm? When you spread lies about me in the industry? I stood, adjusting my jacket with deliberate care. But you're right, we are family, which is why I'm offering you all jobs, real ones, no titles, no nepotism, entry-level positions. You'll earn your way up, just like I did. Entry-level? Elizabeth's voice cracked. But we have experience. No, I said, voice like steel, you have experience spending Dad's money. Now you can learn how to make it. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Harrison bite back a smile. After 30 years of watching our family implode behind closed doors, this must have been his personal soap opera finale. Michael's voice was hollow. The contracts, how much to renew? I grabbed my bag. We'll discuss that Monday. My office, 9 a.m., sharp, and don't be late. I'm not as lenient as Dad was. At the door, I turned one last time. Oh, Elizabeth, that penthouse Dad gave you after your wedding, rent's going up, market rate, you understand, business is business. Behind me, silence, then Thomas's voice, barely audible. Does anyone else feel like we've been playing Monopoly, and she was playing chess? In the elevator, I finally exhaled. Dad's last words echoed in my mind. I was wrong, Sarah, so wrong. You didn't reject the family business, you reinvented it. My phone buzzed. A message from Mayo. How'd it go? Just as expected. Tell HR to prep 3 new training packages, and let building management know, the penthouse rent needs adjusting. Another message. Ruthless. I love it. Lunch to celebrate? Can't. Meeting with the art appraiser. Turns out Dad had better taste than his children. I stepped out into the sunlight. The city skyline stretched before me, glass, steel, and concrete. Half of it belonged to companies I built. My phone buzzed again, Michael, calling. I declined the call and sent a final text. All business inquiries through proper channels. Monday, 9 o'clock. Bring your resume. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rising so far above them, they can't even see you anymore. And sometimes, the greatest legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you build while they're waiting to be handed something. Dad finally understood that. Now it was their turn to learn. The hard way. As I pulled into the parking garage of my real office, the one they didn't even know existed, I couldn't help but smile. Monday would be fun. Very fun indeed. After all, nothing humbles like realizing the sister you dismissed as irrelevant was your landlord all along.